Hi, Misha here, and as promised, this is part deuce, looking at the Heckler & Koch MR556A1 rifle. And in part one, I pointed out several things, including the fact that these are 2022 cc dated uppers. So this is the newest version. These came in January of 2023, and I pointed out the features, including that I really feel like the barrel is a little bit lighter weight, still 16.5 inches. No, it is not chrome lined, but it is a hammer forged barrel from Germany. At least that's what HK says. It is threaded 1/2x28, comes with the A1 style flash hider. It has the free floated M-lock pattern handguard. As far as I know, these are either made by HK in-house or directly contracted. And they do have a QD sling socket on the side. Top rail here. And pretty much the standard features and HK stock and a Magpul grip. This is just how they come. Anyway, video one, we did some first impressions. Well, rather I did with J-Rose help. This video, we're going to get Fox's impression, and we're going to compare it with some other guns. But first, since he's never really shot one or even maybe handled one before, let's let Fox put a magazine through it. Fox's first time with the MR556. Alright, well, obviously it ran fine. And speaking of mags, when I took this out, I actually keep these in these German, I think they're actually maybe Czech style pouches, but anyway, they're appropriate. And for three generations of HK AR-15 mag. This is the original steel, initially developed for the British L85, the SA-80. And this is what originally shipped with the MR556. Then we have kind of a early gen translucent waffle. This was kind of the hot thing back around 2010. I don't believe the MR ever shipped with these. It's all plastic. Translucent mags, especially in green, were kind of the thing then. And here's a third generation HK mag that is very much inspired by Magpul, but different, and it has a window. And I actually picked this one up a year or two back from HK Parts. All are military, but of course today this just comes with a standard Magpul. One thing I want to say before we move forward, I apologize, this video is going to be a little bit ad hoc. We had bigger plans, but we had a family event happen that kind of took our time and required us to be places. Yet, because we love you all, we did squeeze in some range time in this video because we promised we would do it. But the good news is, because this was a bit truncated, we'll eventually do a part 3 with the rifle that Fox picked. So we'll see how he dresses it up. But that's then. For that matter, if you do love us too, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help, check out the link to Patreon. With that, you know, it's been a couple years since I myself have fired an MR556. So I'm going to put a mag through it. Alright, now me with the MR.
Very consistent ejections.
Alright, so just to make sure there's nothing weird, we want to run a couple of test mags through it and kind of acquaint ourselves with the gun, since we have fired the first comparator here, the LMT Estonian R20, a number of times. So it only seemed honest to let this settle in just a bit. And I was kind of curious if the somewhat strange HK mag, which is standard AR, just a little odd, would fit it, and of course it did. I want you to note this gap here between the top of the mag and the mag well. And here we go. This is just the steel mag, and we had no fitment troubles with any of these mags, and either of these guns. So let's get to comparing and shooting back to back, and our takes right afterwards. MR again. Now Fox with the LMT. Hot take. So you shot the MR and then the LMT back to back. Thoughts?
Man, I gotta go with the HK. The LMT may be comfortable for hand placement and grip, but man, that HK, you're not gonna beat it. It's so much more minimal recoil, and I hate to use the term jankiness, but noise. It's no noise, no springs, recoil, noises. I don't know how to explain that, but HK.
All right, we'll trade off and I'll give it a go. All right, so that was Fox's first take in comparison. See, the HK Gen 3 mag fits here really well. And I wanted to put the older one in the HK here. As I pointed earlier, notice that gap there. There's no gap here. This lines up perfectly with the magwell. That's because the MR556 magwell drops down just a little bit further in the front. This can cause problems with some AR mags, but in HK's defense, this is a Stanag spec magwell. It's actually the mags that don't fit this that are out of spec, not the lower. Although again, most have more of this AR-15 spec up here. But in order to allow these mags to fit in various non-AR guns, you know, they are especially used in Europe, but also Asia, it actually drops down a little more further for the spec. Hope that makes sense. If not, sorry. But this illustrates the difference really well. I will say that this lower will accept standard Stanag NATO spec type magazines. So if they don't, it's actually more the mag's fault than the guns, but something to be aware of. So with that, now it's my turn to say LMT or MR556, at least initial first impressions.
Misha with the HK 556.
Now me with the LMT.
So real quick, hot take.
I see what you mean. Not that this has a bad springiness, but it does have a more noticeable spring, which pretty much all ARs do. On the other hand, I will say it's a little easier to charge than the HK.
Do you think that could be because the HK needs to be broken in a little bit?
No, the HK has a very heavy buffer and spring.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I will say, though, I didn't feel like there was a lot of noise. Now, keep in mind, this is a 14 point whatever inch barrel with a pin and welded attachment, and the HK is a 16, so a little bit more there. But I didn't feel like it had more recoil or anything, just a little bit more vibration.
Yeah, a little bit more noise. I said jankiness, but vibration.
Yeah, that little, not bad, not low quality at all, but the HK, there was basically no spring, and I think that heavy spring, probably the reason why.
Yep.
So, that was our initial impression yesterday. Well, Fox needed to get me back home. That wasn't in the plan either. Well, there wasn't much of a plan because of family emergency stuff, but needed to get back home. Had a few minutes to sit down with him at the table and kind of get his second thoughts, impressions from both of us on these. I apologize, no mics that time, just how it worked out. So maybe slightly annoying audio is better than none at all, right? I think I said in video 1 that I'm kind of preferring the LMT purchase over this. But did shooting the MR again change my mind? Before shooting it, Fox was kind of leaning towards the HK. That shooting both back-to-back changed his mind. You know, you already have some idea of where this is going. But after about 24 hours, we sat down at the table to kind of discuss what we did and didn't like, and just, you know, things of that nature. Also, shout out to my younger cousin for being the guy behind the camera. So, thanks, Ben. Let's dive in. All right, so real quick, guys. Sorry, we're kind of on a time thing today, but this was the part 2 after we ran we shot these more than anything else, and only shot the LMT a couple of times this go around because we've had this out at least 3 times in the past year, and we didn't get a chance to do the T91, but next time we can. These are the two really compare.
Very much. This was.
What do you think?
Well, I'll say this. There's a reason we broke this LMT out the most consistent over most of the guns we've shot lately. And this was like my next go-to AR. Talk to you about it. I didn't even have
around
to.
The holidays. Can they still make the MR?
Very much so. So for you guys watching, gals, as soon as he brought the HK MR556 down, it was pretty obvious within the first mag that I'm going to go with the HK MR556.
Because before you were asking if they still made these, and I was explaining, this is the ER20 version, and it's just one of LMT's many. You don't have to get like this.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of what we talked about earlier is with this MR1, I'm not going for a military specific setup.
Right.
This is going to be decked out the way Fox wants it decked out, not as far as a
kind of a medium.
Yeah. Close quarter.
It's safe to say you'd rather have one of those over one of these.
I would, and I know there's going to be a little bit of there'll be a little bit of flack on that, as I would expect there to be if I even went with the LMT. But there's just something about this that. One, the reduced felt recoil and almost noises. Not saying that the LMT doesn't have that quality feel.
Well, as we talked about, when you
just charging it.
Slight amount of.
Golly,
this is easier to charge. Part of it is it's a lighter spring. Part of it it's a full ambi charging handle. That one's only got the one side. Well, it's just a heavy spring.
It is a heavy spring, and I'll say this. Kind of to back up what he's saying here is if you don't grab this straight to charge it towards you, if you try to even lightly get that at an angle, it kind of hangs up. And probably a lot of that will tone down with a little bit of break in. But there's just little features about this A1 that stood out that became really obvious the more I shot it. I do like the fatter handrails. I don't know why.
The handguard. And these are both M-lock. But
very much.
To my hands, this one...
probably fits better.
And to be fair, once you put rails on it, it's going to fatten up, and so with that one. But if you're going to go like direct M-lock attachment, that's different besides.
Right. And I know these are all replaceable things. Sure, you can replace the handguards, you can replace the buttstock, charging handle, grip, but it just seemed like you're paying a little more and you're not getting as much, but I feel
iron sights.
Right. But I feel like by the time I really deck this out and you're already spending that amount of money, okay, so if you're going to throw a Trijicon or EOTech optic, a good sling, and just shoot the damn thing, and I don't know, it spoke to me a little more, and I wanted to do the LMT. I've been hung up on them for a while.
How do you feel about the takedown pins? For example, on this one, they're standard AR pins, but they are dimpled for a bullet tip head to make it a little easier. That one's not standard.
Okay, so it's a love-hate, and the reason being is because, do this, you can feel the play in that versus not much.
No, that's the stock. The upper and lower has, if you feel the upper and lower here.
But if you compare it to, I mean, it's got just a little,
a tiny bit.
It's got enough to where with the precision that H&K has given us here, I feel like it's okay to do this. Am I thrilled about it? Not really, but honestly, how many times?
That one is like it's
rock solid.
One piece of metal. This one is about as tight as any Colt could possibly be. This is as tight as an AR can be. That one, if you didn't know they were two separate pieces of metal,
you would think it's one milled
it is just
chunk of block. And keep in mind, this is with LMT still on my books to probably get another quality AR. But that is something that I was a little concerned about. But then after shooting it and even picking up a couple of my AR builds, it was like, okay, I see why HK decided to do that.
So what do you think about, these are both their OEM stocks. That's the HK. This is kind of the Magpul Slim.
What do you think?
The Magpul Slim I'm very accustomed to. This is what I train with.
Yeah.
But there's something about when my cheek is rested on this HK, it feels like it is molded to my face.
And it does have storage.
And it does have plenty of storage back there for a
Batteries,
tool, battery, a little cleaning kit, but it does take a little getting used to. And I'm assuming the reason this is so hard to get to is for the pinch points.
I would
and
say I do
hang-ups.
like the adjustment because this is very well protected in here.
It is.
That one.
It's a pain to get to. I mean,
A little bit, yeah.
For you guys watching, you almost have to reach into the gun and awkwardly push in and up to get this to collapse. It is. I mean, when we were at the range, I was kind of like, what is wrong with this thing?
I think that's more of a set it and forget. And to be fair, you can even dog that down with a screw.
Yep. It's got the spot right here. So you would think with all these little features like that I like the LMT more. That just goes to show to me how much this HK performed when it came to shooting. I mean,
But I think we have to admit, the LMT is no slouch on accuracy.
No slouch.
But the HK is, even from our limited accuracy testing, is...
Yeah, and if you're really looking for a battle AR-15, and that's what I am. I've spent a lot of money over the years building Arrow and even some Wilson Combats and stuff to save money. I feel it's kind of time that we needed to pick between the HK and the LMT, and you just so happened to listen to me tell you.
What do you think about the grips they both come with?
Okay, so... All right, Magpul is a love-hate relationship with me. I don't know why, but I feel like it kind of gets frowned upon being on such a high-class gun.
It is a little different.
It is.
The earlier ones actually came with an HK logo grip.
Right. So you kind of feel like, well, heck, I could go get one of these for $20. All right, here's another thing the LMT wins. I like the LMT grip better. And I have, and keep in mind, guys, Hogue AR-15 grips are what I run on all my AR-15s.
This really reminds me back... It was still during the Star Wars ban because it was a banned gun, but I bought one of the earlier Wilson Combat M4Ts. It came with not this grip, but a similar one, and so I got really used to it. Normally, finger grooves aren't my jam necessarily, but these are so subtle.
They are.
That I'm cool with it.
Well, I have that grip on my Wilson Combat right now, so I do tend to like that more. But I do want to note, this Magpul grip, guys, isn't the one I feel you can just go to the store and get. It's kind of rubberized.
It's the plus.
Okay.
The
I haven't seen
blah,
these
blah,
yet.
blah, plus. And so basically, and you can buy them, but you're right. They're not just like every store's going to do them.
From looking at it, it looks plastic, but it is very rubberized. But there's another thing the LMT wins at. I do like the grip better.
I'm trying to think, what about trigger?
Trigger, I love this HK trigger. This HK trigger is it's a 2-stage. It's not even that it has. It would be hard to explain. It's just.
It is.
It's effortless. Really, it was. I don't know.
It's not super light, but there is something very attractive about it.
There is. There's something attractive. And I don't know if that's just the whole tightness of this gun, but I mean, this charging handle, I mean, that flies out of there fast, really fast.
It's a hell of a spring in there.
It is. It's a hell of a spring.
But it does keep that recoil down, as we talked about already. There's no bang, 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 and
no.
I don't feel like either of these guns really climb or anything. But
not at all.
The HK has no vibration. This has the smallest amount. Now, on the other hand, one thing I do like about this gun, and I probably have already pointed it out, but I'll point it out again, is not to get into too much of YouTube's, disassembly to get to the gas piston is effortless. You just pull it out. Whereas on the HK, it's not bad, but you got to remove that handguard.
Right, the handguard's going to have to completely come off. But the cool thing I do like about the handguard removal is they used a very large accessible with a flat head. So that was another thing I picked up on. Because you actually take a small Allen wrench and lay sideways and bust that dude
and
loose.
we did notice though after shooting it, it did loosen a bit. We tightened it back down. Whereas like on this LMT, this handguard is part of the upper receiver.
It's on there.
So if you like it, great. If you don't, sorry. But on the HK, you can. It's a modular component, so it cuts both.
It does
both ways.
And I figured you would ask by now, but let's talk charging handles. LMT kind of wins again.
Yeah, it's mostly because it's ambi.
But
even then, I like this style of it. It's not as, I don't think it goes out as far, but it's really wide.
It is wide, and it's also not where it seems like it's going to catch a sling or even your shirt if you're wearing a pocketed shirt or anything. It's not just huge, but it's also a little more comfortable to
Yeah.
charge than the HK. And man, it sounds weird whenever you're sitting here saying, well, I like this and that more on the LMT. Really where this HK shined for me was just the small amount of 60, 80 rounds I put through it. And it was enough for me
I
to
think
say.
we got to about 100, even though we had limited time. But we kind of knew.
Yeah, we knew going into it that we were going to.
There'll be more, but yeah, you were just trying to. You've probably put about the same, about roughly 100 through the LMT. One thing that people sometimes complain about, this has a standard, alloy port cover. How do you feel about that one being polymer?
Man, it doesn't bother me that bad. I mean, it's kind of a. Face it, how many polymer weapons do I carry at this point in life?
Exactly. I mean you got a stock.
Yeah, I mean, it for the old school, well, it's polymer, it's plastic. Okay, well, I guess 80% of my guns are polymer and plastic. So
right, yeah.
I don't let that let that bother me too much. But
yeah, I think it's kind of. I really think I think HK does it for an improvement because that's not going to bend. I've literally had these doors bend, and it's not going to rust, and it's not going to freeze closed. Like it's not going to get jammed. And I think that actually goes to the HK's reliability in salt water.
Well, and yeah, at this point in time, I mean, sure, every gun manufacturer has a couple of flaws, but I trust HK.
Yeah, I trust it. I don't think they did it to be cheap. I think they did it for a reason.
No, I wouldn't take it as that. I mean,
yeah. Another thing too is I'm looking at the trigger guard. Interesting, the HK is just a standard guard.
Yeah, versus the LMT,
this actually got a bit of a.
It's got the curve,
oversized.
which that's normally one of the first things I do to replace my guns. Yeah. Everybody that watches the channel knows I normally shoot with gloves, and I just like having that little bit of a slope on there. I mean, the LMT, I get it. I've read comments online. It's kind of been a big debate the last little bit. I get why the LMT wins, but also at the same time, I think if you were fortunate enough to be in my situation and had both of them, you could definitely see why the HK wins just a little.
Out of the box, and I'm just speaking to my version here that I went. This gun came out of the box almost exactly how I wanted it, being a military gun. But it is pretty much the way it is. Yeah, you can change the stock, the grip, even the sights, but you're not going to change the handguard.
No.
You can change the barrels, but that's a whole other barrel. And the lower is, I do like that it's fully ambi lower. That's pretty cool.
I do too.
But you're stuck with it. The HK, I think, out of the box, it's more of a blank canvas.
It is.
I think you can make it into something you adore.
Yep.
But it's money.
It is money. And that's kind of what me and you had in the conversation in the car earlier. You like this because it's as is. It's the military.
It's military
versus gun. Now I'm stepping in with an elite bougie gun that now I get to put my taste and my collections. Because face it, I'm going to replace the majority of this. I like.
I think they started to because if you look at the early MRs, they had more special parts and things, but I think they realized what's the point of putting stuff on that people are just going to
replace. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's here, but I also know there's going to be some people totally shaking their heads like, oh my gosh, you're paying X amount for this and you're going to start replacing stuff. I mean, this day and age, I feel...
It reminds me of the Scar.
Very much.
It's a good base gun, but you're going to be doing something.
Yep.
Another thing, too, we got to mention it because in the comments, yes, this one has a chrome line barrel. That one does not.
Accuracy.
Accuracy.
That's it.
Yeah.
I would trade it out. I mean, I would.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. A lot of people do, but hey, accuracy.
Yeah, I don't think HK... And I've also, a couple of comments said that they were told that HK uses different steel in the 416 versus the MR. Maybe. I doubt it. If anything, they might even use higher grade than that because the 416 is primarily built to be a military gun that can go over the beach and through the woods and never jam. And the MR still has that reliability, but I think they're more focused on match shooting and long range, 500-600 yard shooting plus. Right. So I think they're both equally, the 416 and the MR, equally well built, but different purposes. That's a civilian gun, and HK knows it.
Yep. Well, and face it, man. If you get back down to it, they're tools. I mean, these are going to be used. What application are you going to use this for?
And you've got a lot of little shorties for close range.
A lot. I mean, we're setting on several small builds, so this gives me the opportunity to, hey, we can go out and actually. Everybody knows I deer hunt. Yes, 223, 556 in the right round is excellent, and this gives you kind of that opportunity to use as well.
Yeah, so as I kind of alluded to in video one, we probably disagree, but it also goes to show you guys you can, one, have a polite disagreement. It's not like a thing. Also, different needs. I'm a collector, military hardware, and you're more of a shooter. So that's fine. Different guns, different strokes, you know?
Well, that's what makes this all fun and entertaining. Is
Different short strokes for different folks.
definitely short strokes.
Definitely. Alrighty, we'll move on.
So in video 1, I promised a 3-way comparison. That's something I'm going to have to give you a rain check on. We didn't have time or space for the T91 this time, but I wanted to bring it out. I was also curious how these HK mags would fit it, and surprisingly, they all fit fine. The steel actually fit well. I was kind of worried it might be a little thick and heavy because this receiver is a little tight. The green fit well. The Magpul style fit, but a little tight. So, they all still do fit in the T91. But, neat enough gun, and I had a lot of fun building it. And it is definitely comparable, yet it is significantly less money. But it's kind of one you do have to assemble yourself, at least from an upper and a lower parts kit and all that. With that, a little more shooting footage, and then I'll let Fox look at the T91 for the first time. He's never actually seen this gun. It'll be interesting to get his take. MR. First shots out of the T91 Tactical. T91, not bad.
So we promised a 3-way comparison, but because our plans got changed through personal events, we really only had time to shoot 2. But I'm sure this will come out soon, and you guys on the channel have seen it. My Taiwanese T91, which is another short stroke, gas piston, AR inspired gun, 223, takes AR mags. This one I assembled using a complete upper from T91 Tactical, and what was at the time an 80% lower, but it was finished out and done all before, long before the things, guys. So it is a lower made in Taiwan, just had final machining and finishing done here. And then a complete T91 lower. So much like the MR, the parts are imported and assembled here just by me, an idiot, compared to the guys at HK USA. So this is one I really wanted to compare, and this is a much less expensive gun. But it's still it's a piston gun, and that's more of a, if you were to put one together, I don't know, 1,500.
Oh, okay.
And that's Taiwan's current issue gun.
Gotcha. Do you know if they put any kind of optics or anything on there?
Yeah, they do. I mean, and I've got 2 different rear. That's the so-called simple rear sight. It just pulls off. It's a QD, and there's also a carry handle rear sight that goes on in its place, or you can just run a dot. I think a lot of them still run the irons just because it's relatively new to service, but
Yeah, it's got
and that's the current Magpul handguard. Yeah, earlier they had like a plastic.
Oh, okay.
handguard. Yeah.
They kind of went out and got an aluminum or something here.
Yeah,
it's very light.
Yeah.
I will say that it doesn't have a whole lot of weight to it.
Like the LMT, it's about a 14 give or take inch barrel and that's a permanently attached box cutter.
So what was the deal with the 14 inch versus the 16 inch? Was it
that's
weight?
just military length.
Okay.
Also, for the bayonet, it's kind of the length that was settled upon almost by accident years ago. Kind of getting into the Colt story. I think because Colt did it, and it's just
Gotcha.
For CQB, it's kind of not super short, but it's compact enough and
Just enough to where you can.
And I think too, because we're using 1 in 7 twists now, that basically gives you 2 full, rotations.
Yeah. Well, and it still gives you enough room to put a suppressor on there and not be so far out.
Yeah,
so
and
that makes sense too.
Yeah. It's kind of good. It's just what kind of military settled on. 16, of course, is more the standard here because of the law, more than any other reason. Yeah, it's simple 3-position Car 15 style stock.
Yeah.
But it's of a piece. It's the same concept, a short stroke gun like the HK.
Can you still get a lot of these parts into build, or is that kind of thing in the past?
No. I mean, probably like anything, they're coming back. T91 Tactical is still around, so Sean's still out there. He's a good guy.
Cool.
That's mine. I put it together, and
Reliable.
yeah, really like it.
Takes good.
I'm sure it's not near as accurate. I mean, I'm sure it's fine. It's probably a 2.5 MOA gun, give or take, ammo, but for a service gun.
And, a lot of times with these ARs is that say they're 500, 600 yards compatible. Well, I mean, you're basically going to be ice picking things when you start shooting out that far. But it is good to know, especially for target shooting, just like what we were doing a few weeks ago. Really reaching out with these guns is fun. But
yeah, so what do you think of the setup? I mean,
it's not anything that I'm just drooling over. I really do. Man, you've done pretty good at kind of pulling me into the AR-15 world. Over the last,
which is a little ironic.
It is really ironic, but I don't know. I haven't got to really pick up so many different style of military import AR-15s, but I'm starting to learn the feels and things I do and don't like. But
this is interesting. One thing I do like about it too, and this is what I talked about on the LMT, is I'm gonna risk YouTube here a bit. I really like the way you get to the gas piston system for cleaning. You just push this in, and I'll do it right. Rotate it, and once that's rotated, that unlocks here.
Okay.
And then you just can
get right to it.
Yeah, it's easier. This has been shot, so cleaning rod would make this a little easier than by hand. But even by hand, you see. Oh, cool. And it just comes out as a whole packet.
Check that out.
And you can twist it apart, and it further disassembles, and it's all right here. And I think that's pretty super slick.
That is super slick.
Yeah.
Especially for cleaning purposes or being out in the field or
maintenance.
Yeah.
And it's well locked in there. You're not going to accidentally kick it out. Whereas on the LMT, there's just a small button, and the chances of you accidentally hitting it are very low. But this is, you can tell this was meant for more of a mass issuance, give it to a conscript type gun.
Yes.
And I can't imagine why Taiwan would need a well-trained and equipped army.
Yeah, no, not at all. What's cool about these two is just things like that. Is you hand this to someone that's new with AR-15 platform outside of the box, and it's little things like that. You're like, oh, okay, now I see what makes this gun a little more appeasing for some, because aesthetically and the way it feels, it's not even close to being comparable to the LMT or the HK.
No, it's really hard. But of course, it is basically half the price.
Absolutely, but you feel that, and it kind of goes back to the just as good crew. Man, I knew from AKs because of how long we've been talking AKs for all these years, but when you jump into the AR-15 world, it's just the same. Just as good is not always a true statement.
Well, and just as good as what? Reliability, durability, longevity, accuracy, or accessibility. How well can you... And none of these are just as easy to accessorize as a direct impingement, or if you prefer internal piston AR. It's just not.
Well, and I guess it kind of goes back to the HK versus the LMT is the fact that this is ready for you to set this up on how you want it to be. It's what's comfortable. But
yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah.
And back here with me. I know what Fox is saying about this. I don't think anyone's pretending like the machining and all that is up to HK or LMT or even FN standards. However, it's not a bad gun. It is well made. This was made for more general issuance to a military who is, at least budget conscious, whereas the MR556 is a take from the HK416, which is expensive enough that even the German government balked at ordering it, at least in the beginning. That said, it is a nice gun. As I said, I had a lot of fun doing it. This is a true Taiwanese lower. As I mentioned briefly there, this is a 3-position stock, pretty standard length tube. This is one of the 2 iron sights. This is the simple iron. There's also a bigger one, and of course they can put optics on. This version has the fixed 1-piece front sight. There's a 2-piece as well. Those have a little bayo lug and small pick rail here too. M-lock handguard, and again pin and welded. It's a thinner weight barrel than on the HK, but not super thin, so it does kind of come across as a little bit lighter. And yeah, it doesn't hold a candle to the 2, except when it comes to money. and just kind of it's really cool to have a replica of Taiwan's current military issue gun. So just thought I'd bring that up too. But I'm sure one day we'll be able to get out and shoot it, because yeah, it sounds like that's where Fox is going with the HK. So you'll be seeing this again, so we can do a part 3 later on in the year. And with that, guys, appreciate you. And let's go back to the table once more, and we'll kind of wrap things up. And I would say, if you own any of these, please do feel free to share your own thoughts and experiences below in the comments.
Alrighty, guys. So, I really still like the T91, but I have to admit, it's the lesser of 3. It's not its fault.
No, not at all.
But it was a lot of fun to put together. It was one of those guns where it's just easy enough to find all the parts and just cheap enough, but also a little bit challenging to find all the right things. So I like it for the fun it was. But this LMT, I'm sticking with it, and I actually picked up 2 of those MRs in case I wanted to hang on to one. But I think for me, myself, and I, this is filling that role of piston AR really well. Mm-hmm. So I think I'll just hang on to this.
Yeah, and I think for me, this MR1 fills my need to accessorize and deck out and do it how I want. And this is definitely what I'm going to go with here.
Yeah. So they'll probably see a video. Probably be a couple months for you to get all the stuff in you want for it. But he'll rice it out and
PMR again.
God, I love this gun.
So you'll just kind of
pick back up in a few months.
Yeah, see how you like it, and once it gets springtime, because it was cold out.
Yeah.
We'll get out to the field and throw up some steel targets and try to see which ammo it likes.
Yes. Get out, get some distance. Yeah. See what legs it's got.
So guys, hope this was a satisfying enough part 2, and hopefully at least a somewhat unique take on the HK MR556, because there's a lot of videos. It's been on the market for a decade now. But
iconic firearm.
I will say that both the LMT and it 100% reliable.
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely.
The HK is a little bit more mag sensitive. It's got a little bit of a funky mag well, but not bad. I don't think we.
No.
Yeah. But there's a few things like maybe some of the Surefire weird 60 rounders or a Beta C might have a little trouble, but outside of that,
mag pulls just fine. HK mags on it.
I do wish it still came with an HK mag. Another thing too,
that kind of
it's
threw
a
me
small
off.
thing, but they come with mag pull now, and they've been doing that for a while. But they used to come with one of those steel mags we looked at earlier, and I do miss that.
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing when you brought out your nice fancy $100 HK mag. I did.
I noticed when you tried to swap it for an alloy.
Yeah, I almost put it in the bag, but you heard it. So
yes, I did. Alrighty, folks. Appreciate you tuning in. If you could, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel,
please do check out our Patreon.
Yep, link below.
Helps out a whole lot.
This is Misha.
And this is Fox.
And we'll catch you very soon, hopefully with microphones next time.